Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Film for Fans podcast, the podcast from movie fans for movie fans. I am your host, Ryan Dunlevy, joined by my co-host, Rob Dunham.
Hello, everyone. Live and direct from my friend's house today, sporting the Pittsburgh Pirates gear because maybe someday we'll have success in baseball. Today is not that day, but maybe someday I'll get to experience what it's like to win a playoff game. That'd be cool.
Yeah, good luck. It's good that you've already got some of the gray hair out of the way because it might be a little while.
Well, they're responsible for some of that, so
For sure. All right. Well, it is not a men's hair coloring or baseball
lack of hair podcast.
or lack of hair podcast. No, definitely not. It is, however, an excellent movie podcast. And so we will give you a lot of good content today. We'll talk about the box office and some interesting things that have been taking place over the last couple of weeks, talk about some of the new movies out this week. And for our discussion, we're going to give you a preview of the rest of the year in movies. So we'll talk about movies that are coming out the rest of the year and kind of dive into a few specific ones that we are looking forward to in particular. And of course, we'll conclude with our watch list. You ready, Rob?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Into the rabbit hole we go. We have a new number one for last weekend. And it was a movie we didn't highlight because, frankly, I didn't know about it.
I did know about it, and I perhaps should have mentioned it, but I didn't mention it because I honestly did not think it would be in the top 5 of the box office, much less the number one movie in the box office.
I don't think it was in the local theaters around here, and I think that's one of the reasons last weekend. But I could be wrong. It is now for sure. But the new number one is Terrifier 3. Did $18.9 million in its debut weekend in the box office this past weekend. Obviously, that's a horror movie. If you didn't know by the name Terrifier 3.
Yes. And I did see this last Sunday at Regal in New York. So I know it was at least at Regal in New York.
Maybe I just missed it. I don't know. The Wild Robot came in number 2. It was also number 2 last week. In its third week in the box office, it made $14 million, almost exactly $14 million too, which is kind of funny. It has made $84 million in 3 weeks. So solid showing for the Wild Robot. Beetlejuice came in third, pulled in another $7.3 million. It is up over $275 million.
But Ryan, at this point, I have to ask the question: where is Joker? A movie that made 50 something million dollars opening weekend didn't make $7 million.
No, well, it did, but barely. It made $7 million in week number 2 for a drop off of 81.4%. 81.4%.
For those of you who are avid followers of the podcast, you'll understand that's bad.
Yeah, normal drop off from week 1 to week 2 is about 55%. Good is anything 50% or lower. Bad is anything 60% or higher. This dropped off 81.4% from week 1 to week 2. So not only was it disappointing on the front end, but then everyone went and told their friends, don't go see this movie.
Yeah, 81% is catastrophic. Yeah. It's not just bad.
That's really bad.
Yeah. Have you seen this yet?
Joker?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean we talked about it.
So we talked about it last week.
And we both like it.
Yeah. We're both not antagonistic towards it.
Yeah, I don't understand why. I mean, this is very clearly what's very interesting about the box office this week is we have 2 very different trajectories of movies. We have one movie that people saw and despised and told everyone to not go see. And then we have another movie, the top movie, Terrifier 3, that had 0 TV advertising, almost no advertising revenue whatsoever, a $2 million budget, and it made $19 million this opening weekend.
Yeah.
I understand we make fun of, for good reason. I think at times we make fun of Hollywood executives.
Hmm.
Then there are also things like this week that make me wonder like how hard that job must be, because I don't know who would have predicted any of this.
Yeah.
Especially looking, if you had asked them to handicap it like a month ago or 2 months ago,
Hmm.
no one would have had Terrifier 3 as the number one movie in the box office. I
Yeah.
can guarantee that.
Especially week two of Joker.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's kind of fascinating to me. We talked about how Joker might have been like the wrong movie for the audience that it was marketed for. And so I think some of that still holds true. But I don't know if I've ever seen an 81% drop off from week one to week two for a big name movie. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's really bad. So I don't know what to make of that. But and that came in number four. There is one more. Number five, another new entrant, Piece by Piece, did $3.8 million. If you remember, that was the random Lego movie about Pharrell Williams's life.
I mean, it
Wow.
had about the audience I expected it to have.
Yeah.
Not very much.
Yeah. It's a very strange mix. But that is your box office. Overall, the box office was down 20% this weekend from last weekend. So it was a little bit of a hit box office to the box office this past week. I mean, and that makes sense. I mean, most of the time, Terrifier 3 is not going to be your number one unless there's not a ton going on at the box office. I
Yeah.
do think Terrifier 3 has the one of the advantages of like it's October. People are thinking about Halloween, so horror movies tend to do well during this particular period of time.
However, I will say that the last one, Terrifier 2, total domestic and globally only made $25.7 million. So the fact that this one has made 18.9 in a week tells me that the audience for this movie has spread. Like the audience for this franchise has probably spread more than the people who created it ever thought would be possible.
Oh, it clearly has to be the case. I mean, they only had a budget of $2 million for the movie. I
Yeah.
mean, like,
What I
seriously.
found very fascinating when I did go see it last Sunday was that at my Regal Theater, they have all the posters lined up outside on
Mhm.
the outside facing wall, like in the parking lot. And usually, the movie that's most anticipated or people are most interested in going to is in the first slot right by the doors.
Mhm.
And Terrifier 3's poster was in that slot. And I remember walking in the theater and thinking, why is that there? But I don't know if they had like advanced tracking that was showing them like, hey, this movie is something people are going to be drawn to.
Yeah.
But clearly, much more of an audience than, I mean, I'm not, I'm going to, we'll talk about this in the watch list section because I watched this movie. Like, I like horror movies. I don't love this movie. And yet, there are a lot of people who have really uh, caught on to this character. Art the Clown is the main
Mm.
character's name. If you want to throw him in with Pennywise and uh, Ghostface from Scream and all these other horror iconic characters, he's becoming an iconic horror character. And what's very interesting about it is it's completely indie
Mm.
thing. Like it's completely come from nothing. It's a complete grassroots
Yeah.
thing from Damien Leone is the director, and this is his third full movie. And before the first movie, he had a short film based on this character, and that's what spawned the first movie happening in the first place. And even this one, this third one, is very indie movie slash student film
Mhm.
kind of feel watching it, and I'm stunned. And this is from someone who is a big horror fan. I'm stunned that this movie is the number one movie in the box office.
Yeah. Well, like I said, weird week at the box office.
Yep, can't always predict it. That's what
You
makes
know.
it.
But let's talk a little bit about what came out this weekend. There's four movies of note that came out this weekend, and one of them is Exhibiting Forgiveness, rated R, an hour and 57 minutes. A black artist on the path to success is derailed by an unexpected visit from his estranged father, a recovering addict desperate to reconcile. Together, they struggle to learn that forgetting might be a greater challenge than forgiving. So that's exhibiting forgiveness. Rumors, rated R, an hour and 49 minutes. The leaders of 7 wealthy democracies get lost in the woods while drafting a statement on a global crisis, facing danger as they attempt to find their way out. Kate Blanchett is the star there. Smile 2, rated R, 2 hours and 7 minutes. About to embark on a world tour, global pop sensation Sky Riley begins experiencing increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressures of fame, Sky is forced to face her past. So that's Smile 2. And Goodrich, rated R, an hour and 51 minutes. Andy Goodrich's life is upended when his wife enters a rehab program, leaving him on his own with their young kids. Goodrich leans on Grace, his daughter from a first marriage, as he ultimately evolves into the father she never had. And the main star here is Michael Keaton, playing the role of Goodrich. Anything appealing to you here in our 4 main entrants to the box office?
I did go see Smile 2, so that would have been the one that I would have picked. Anyway, based on what's coming out. Not so great a week for a family movie night.
No. No, when all the new entrances are rated R, like, yeah.
And they're all like not light R either. Like they're not comedies. They're all like serious movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you still have the Pharrell Williams movie in there for kids. I think
this is
go see the Lego Pharrell Williams.
This is the traumatize your children weekend at the box office.
Yeah.
We throw Terrifier in there too, along with the rest of these.
You can imagine like some random person going, "Oh, Smile, that sounds great. Let's take the kids to that."
Oh man. I really hope not after having seen that movie. I really hope not.
Yeah. I would probably pick Goodrich. I like Michael Keaton. He's a great actor. So ultimately, that's probably the one I would pick. Not sure I will go see any of these, but that's what's there. I do want to mention real quickly, I stumbled across one that was in our local independent theater, and it was Nosferatu with Radiohead. And so I looked into this a little bit, and it's done by a company called Silence Synced. And this is a company that pairs classic silent movies with epic rock music. And it was created by an independent cinema owner. And they basically send these things out only to independent cinemas and drive-ins. And so our local independent cinema here, Penn Cinema, has Nosferatu synced to Radiohead's Kid A and Amnesiac, those 2 albums, with the 1923 version of Nosferatu.
That's interesting.
So it's really interesting. That almost makes me want to go see a silent movie.
Yeah. Well, it's not a silent movie anymore, I guess.
It's not a silent movie anymore. Well, none of those were silent either. They always have like piano music playing in the background and whatnot. Yeah. But the concept is really fascinating. I'm curious as to how well they do.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you can see those in your local independent cinema.
Say hi to Keith.
Yes, if you are listening to this podcast, this will make no sense to you whatsoever.
Especially if he doesn't say anything and just hovers over here. He's waving his hand. He's kind of like Art the Clown from Terrifier. That's scarier.
I am terrified, that's for sure.
Yeah, good. Should be.
All right, that's the box office for this week. And now we will move on to our discussion. So one of the things I promised you in the last week or so is that we would do a preview of the movies for the rest of the year. So we have a little bit more than 2 months in the box office for the rest of the year, and there are quite a few movies coming out. The fall tends to be the time when you get some some classic drama type movies, some stuff that tends to be up for awards tends to be released around this time. Also, you will start getting some more big blockbusters when you come around to Thanksgiving and particularly Christmas. Will be slightly different this year, as you can say. So what we're going to do here is I'll go through each week and I'll give you a couple of movies coming out each week and just a real quick synopsis. And Rob might chime in here at some point along those ways. And then we'll pick a couple of movies that we want to highlight, things that we're particularly looking forward to that we think you might want to check out. So let's get to it. Next week is October 25th, and the big one coming out next week is going to be Venom: The Last Dance. Of course, this is the third and supposedly final installment of the Venom trilogy, and it will feature, of course, Eddie Brock, played by Tom Hardy, and his Venom alien symbiote. And they run into his creator, as it were, as they chase him down. And so this will be the culmination of the trilogy from Venom: The Last Dance. So that's going to be your big one for the rest of October here coming out. November is an interesting month, especially November 1st. There's three somewhat interesting movies that are coming out on November 1st. One of them is called Juror Number 2. And this is a family man, Justin Kemp, who's, while serving on a jury in a high-profile murder trial, finds himself struggling with a serious moral dilemma, one that he could use to sway a jury verdict and potentially convict or free the wrong killer. Interesting one here, directed by Clint Eastwood. Somehow Clint Eastwood in his 90s is still directing movies. So also November 1st, Conclave. And this is based on a Robert Harris 2016 thriller, which refers to the papal conclave charged with selecting a successor to replace a late pope. Ralph Fiennes stars in this one as a cardinal tasked with overseeing the crucial decision. Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini fill out the cast. And there's lots of like secrets and intrigue and power plays and all this stuff going on there. And Blitz, based stars Saoirse Ronan, who is separated from her 9-year-old son after she sends him to the English countryside during World War II. And when George then goes missing, there's a harrowing adventure to go back to his mother and his grandfather. So there's kind of a London, middle of World War II, separated family type drama there, starring Saoirse Ronan. November 8th, we got Heretic, starring now I forget his name.
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, thank you. I didn't ever write it down. Hugh Grant, two religious women are drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man. You also have Small Things Like These, starring Cillian Murphy. In 1985, a devoted father, Bill Furlong, discovers disturbing secrets kept by a local convent and uncovers the shocking truth of his own. And then if you want just a shoot 'em up action movie, there's Weekend in Taipei, where a former DEA agent and former undercover operative revisit their romance during a fateful weekend in Taipei. Luke Evans is your main character here. And November 15th, the main one here is going to be Here, which stars Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. As it kind of shows them, it's done by Robert Zemeckis, and it kind of shows the course of their romance throughout time as it takes place in a specific room. So that's an interesting one that we will perhaps revisit later. November 22nd, now we get towards Thanksgiving weekend. You have Wicked, of course, comes out. The musical Wicked, loosely based on Gregory Maguire's novel and based on the characters of The Wizard of Oz. So we have that one. Also, Gladiator 2. Ridley Scott comes back for the epic return of Gladiator. And some of the characters returning. Connie Nielsen's characters returning. Also, you get some really interesting character play here as they've revealed more about who the main protagonist is in this in recent trailers. I'm sure we'll get back to that one. Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin, comes out over Thanksgiving as well. As the world teeters on the brink of annihilation, Dietrich Bonhoeffer joins a deadly plot to assassinate Hitler, risking his faith and his fate to save millions of Jews. And the last one for November is Moana 2. Of course, this will be the musical adaptation, the second installment of Moana. All right, so that's kind of November. So let's pause there and talk about the November movies. Is there anything there that you want to highlight from the month of November?
So this might be
or October too.
Yeah, this might be surprising to you. The one that I'm most interested in November is actually Heretic, because obviously I've talked about how at length how I enjoy horror movies.
Yes.
I'm finding more and more as I go to more horror movies of different subgenres. Psychological horror is absolutely my favorite, and this is what this movie is. It's going to be about a guy like basically mentally, psychologically torturing these two ladies who show up at his house. And the other main thing that really intrigues me about it is Hugh Grant, I think, is a really good actor and underrated, in my opinion.
And I don't think he's ever really played a character like this off the top of my head.
Yeah, definitely not for like a feature length movie, I don't think. I mean, there are aspects of this character that I could see in some of the things he did in Cloud Atlas.
Yeah.
But I don't recall a feature film where he was like the bad guy for this amount of time in this kind of way.
Yeah.
Looking back briefly also on October, there's a movie that's just coming out now, which I'm gonna include in this because it's a limited release now and it's gonna be coming out to more theaters in the next couple weeks. It's called Anora, about basically it's a stripper slash prostitute who is picked up by this Russian oligarch's son, starts dating him. And the reason why I bring this up is that it has generated like a ton of award buzz already. It's only been out like a week, limited release. And there are a lot of people saying that the actress is going to win for Best Actress already. And the trailers made it look like it was going to be a very dramatic kind of award, hopeful movie when I was watching them. So that's Anora, Anora is the name of the movie. Looks pretty fascinating. It has a lot of play on the difference in culture between the Western world and Russia involved in that, which is always a cool thing to delve into.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm looking forward to Wicked and Gladiator 2. And they're the same weekend. They're gonna battle it out with each other. I'm guessing Gladiator 2 is gonna win that battle, but I think they're both gonna do fairly well.
I think you might end up with a very similar to Oppenheimer Barbie there. And now I don't know that they'll have the viral like go see both of these at the same time thing. Though they should, because that'd be funny. But I don't think you will there. For me, obviously the number one on my list by far is Gladiator 2. I am extremely looking forward to this one. Initial trailer, I was like, okay, hopefully they don't screw up the plot. And then as you've seen more about what's going on here, it kind of gets revealed that the main character is actually Lucius from the first film, who was the daughter of Connie Nielsen, who kind of became an unlikely ally, an unlikely friend to Maximus in this. And so I think the levels of intrigue there have to be off the charts. And I think it's a great decision just from where you could go with the storyline. So I'm more looking forward to it now than I was before. And so I really hope it does well. I will definitely be there as soon as I possibly can to see that one. But another one I really want to highlight here is Juror Number 2. I really think this looks like a good movie. The description I read didn't give a full uh, thing, but the trailer for this movie basically reveals that the main character here, who's serving on the jury, um, finds out that he might be the one who accidentally killed the girl who the
Hmm.
guy is on trial for killing. So basically, the trailer sets it up like he thought he hit something with his car and like stopped, looked around, didn't see anything, didn't think must have been a deer who ran off. And then he gets on this jury a little while later and finds out like all the details are exactly the same. And he might actually be the person who did the killing. And he's on the jury that's supposed to like convict this guy or something. So it sounds really interesting and has a lot of psychological elements to it. So I'm really looking forward to that one, actually. Um, Conclave could be minorly interesting, depending if it. Part of me thinks like the subplots of that could be really intriguing. The other part of me says like the trailer looks really over the top and really unrealistic.
I
So,
don't know how you have a thriller based on picking up hope, but okay.
well, it's a thriller. It's also rated PG too.
It's
So
yeah,
I, yeah, so it's got some intrigue to it. I mean, it's got excellent actors: Ray Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
is a
Uh,
thriller that's rated PG considered a kiddie ride?
I don't know. Maybe it's like oh, what's the Trailblazer at Hershey Park? Like it's a
Yeah,
kids ride, but it's still a pretty good ride for
sure.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking there. And I am intrigued with Bonhoeffer too. That I mean that will be further down on my agenda for that particular weekend, but I am intrigued with Bonhoeffer. Anything else in November movies?
I did not have anything that
Okay.
I am aware of.
All right. Let's move to December. We've got some interesting movies in December. December 6th, the two I want to point out here is Y2K. This is an A24 movie, and it's two high school nobodies make a decision to crash the last major celebration before the new millennium on New Year's Eve, 1999. The night becomes even crazier than they could have ever dreamed when the clock strikes midnight. Rachel Zelger is the most known actor in this particular film. I did watch the trailer for this because, like, all right, what is this really about? And it seems like a mixture of like super bad and like a horror movie
Hmm.
because it actually ends up like Y2K is real.
Huh.
It's like what happens if Y2K is real and everything starts screwing up and everyone's starting to like disasters start occurring all the time. Uh, so that one's kind of interesting. Another one coming out December 6th is The Order. A series of bank robberies and car heists frightened communities in the Pacific Northwest. A lone FBI agent believes that the crimes are not the work of financial motivated criminals, but rather a dangerous group of domestic terrorists. And this is based on a true story, starring Jude Law here. December 13th, Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. And when a sudden attack by Wolf, a clever and ruthless Dunleading lord, seeking vengeance for the death of his father, forces Helm Hammerhand, the king of Rohan, and his people to make a daring last stand in the ancient stronghold of the Hornburg. Uh, it's from the Lord of the Rings universe. It's also animated. Is the one thing here. It is an animated movie. It's not
Yeah,
a
and if you are familiar with the books or the movies from previously,
yeah.
you'll recognize Rohan, the Riders of Rohan,
Mm.
and
And
you'll
there,
recognize
mm,
Helm's Deep
yeah.
is the fortress that they retreat to, and it's named after this character.
Yes. So it's basically telling it how it got its name.
Yeah, it's like a prequel essentially.
Yes. There are at least one or two actors who've played other Lord of the Rings characters who returned for this one, as far as I'm remembering on that one. December 20th, you have the live action movie Mufasa the Lion King. Simba, having become a king of the Pride Lands, is determined for his cub to follow in his paw prints, while the origins of his late father Mufasa are explored.
But sorry, following his paw prints is
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. So Mufasa the Lion King on December 20th. You also get Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on November 20th or December 20th. Uh, then there's a few movies that come out on Christmas Day, and it is a, shall we say, a unique cornucopia of movies that for some reason are coming out on Christmas Day. No, none of them have anything to do with Christmas or holidays or anything like that normally comes out on Christmas Day. Baby Girl, a high powered CEO, puts her career and family on the line when she begins a torrid affair with a much younger intern, starring Nicole Kidman. Nosferatu. And this is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Bill Skarsgård are two of your main actors in that particular one. And that is, of course, we've the second time we've mentioned Nosferatu, the name. Mm-hmm. A Complete Unknown is a third movie comes out. At the Newport Folk Festival in 1965, a young Bob Dylan shakes up his act on the folk music scene by going electric and stirring rock as the voice of a generation, defining one of the most formative moments in the 20th century music. And Timothy Chalamet, man, Timothy Chalamet
there you go.
Plays Bob Dylan in this particular film. So you got like a sexual drama, you've got a vampire movie, and you got a musical biopic of Bob Dylan. And those are your Christmas selections this year.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, last year at Christmas, Timothy Chalamet was making a lot of money at the box office as Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And then this year he's going to be in the box office as Bob Dylan.
Go figure, man.
They both sing.
All right, so that's our December roster. What intrigues you? What stands out to you here?
I mean, I'm very interested in A Complete Unknown. I love movies about musicians, especially ones like Elvis or Bob Dylan or Elton John, Freddie Mercury, like these people who are icons of the music world. And I think Bob Dylan's story is one that's worth exploring. And a lot of times, the only thing people have to say about Bob Dylan is they can't understand him when he talks. And there is so much more to him than that. And he wrote some songs that like had massive cultural impact, like huge.
Yeah.
Blown in the Wind, and A Complete Unknown, the song itself. Like the guy was a musical genius. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he's become now. I don't know if it's just a lot of drugs that he's but I'm very interested in that. And the one I'm most interested in is Nosferatu. And that's because I love Robert Eggers. I've loved everything he's done. I think he has the ability to handle this material really well. I really hope that people in the studios that he's working with continue to believe him and allow him to do what he wants to do, because he's never the kind of director I don't think who's going to make a ton of money.
Correct.
At the box office. But my opinion now, having seen multiple of his movies, is that he probably has, if not the best, he has one of the best minds and eyes for film of any modern director. And I hope that he continues to get the opportunity to show that.
He's certainly very interesting, and his choice of subjects and selections are very off the wall in terms of they're not things that most studios or most people are like, ooh, I want to go see that. But he always delivers them with a real sense of drama, and they're always heavier movies. So that's one thing you know about it. They tend to be very heavier movies, but they're really, really well done, and they're very cinematic. He does just have an incredible visual eye. So if you do like the visuals and high class cinematography, then definitely Nosferatu is going to be a good choice for you. Um, for me, I'm surprised at the output in December and what they've got in there. Um, I guess I would say probably the one I'm most interested in is Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim. However, like I wish it was a live action movie. I wish it
Mhm.
wasn't an animated movie. It definitely drops down a few notches to me because it's animated. It's just not my, like, it's not how I want to see that story told. Um, I get that it's, way, 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 way cheaper to be able to do a story like this animated than to give it the full like Peter Jackson treatment. Um, but yeah, so I think that's probably the one I'm most intrigued with. I will undoubtedly go see A Complete Unknown
Mhm.
because, like you, I do enjoy the musical biopics and have found most of them to be pretty well done and worth watching. So I will definitely be checking that one out too. I was partially intrigued by Y2K, but when it kind of went like slightly more horror-ish, I lost a little bit of a feel for it because it could have been cool to like, because it's about high school kids in 1999, and I was a high school kid in 1999, hanging out with my friends on New Year's Eve 1999. So I thought there might have been some cool nostalgic thing in there, and there probably will be. Um, but I'm not sure I'm going to like the movie well enough to be like, yeah, let's go see it. um, any interest in The Lion King for you? Mufasa, The Lion
No,
King?
I'm almost undoubtedly going to be going to see it because of my kids. So,
Yeah, I haven't really
and
bought into
oh, and
the
my
Disney
best friend
attractions.
just chimed in from the kitchen saying I'm also going to go see it because of my best friend.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not uninterested in it.
Mhm.
It's Lin-Manuel Miranda is doing the music, and I love his music.
Yeah.
Um, I it is when I first saw the trailer for it, I was like, how is this different from The Lion King? But it's the story of Scar and Mufasa like growing up together and
Yeah.
how Mufasa came to be part of the family and that development. And you see in the movie The Lion King, the animated one, um, how that family had broken apart when Mufasa had been the one to take the throne and had the royal lineage and all this. So I
Mhm.
am I am a little interested in the backstory of that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that one will end up doing very well.
Undoubtedly.
I think out of the fit between the well, I also think Sonic 3 is going to do pretty well. So um, the end of December might be a good movie for the box office for family movies.
Yeah. You're basically getting your like blockbuster family movies like the weekend before Christmas as
Yeah.
opposed to on Christmas Day. You're getting your two kids kind of movies right at that point. And they'll, of course, still be in the box office over Christmas.
And one other movie that we didn't mention that I think actually comes out in November is Horizon and American Saga Chapter 2.
Is it actually releasing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually releasing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be in the theater or not, but I believe it's supposed to come out November, December. So
Okay.
we'll see if it actually does.
Yeah. All right. So that's just a little preview of movies coming out for the rest of the year, just to give you a rundown of what to expect and what to be on the lookout for. And now we'll close out the podcast today with our watch list, movies we've watched over the last week. Rob, what'd you watch?
I had kind of a scary movie watch list this week, which makes sense considering the time of year that we're in, I suppose. Um, I saw Terrifier 3.
Hmm.
Um, so in my current rating system of 5 stars, I gave it a 2. This movie is so it's unrated, and it absolutely deserves its unrated rating because it is completely over the top, gory, um, people dying in the most disturbing ways you could possibly imagine.
Hmm.
And so, but it's so obviously fake that some of the things you just watch and you have to try really hard not to laugh at as people are getting hacked into tiny pieces because of the ways it's happening, and so obviously not grounded in any form of reality. Um, on the opposite side of the spectrum, I watched three movies which I rated 5 stars each, and I don't rate movies 5 stars super often.
Hmm.
The one is a previous movie I'd seen previously, and am a huge fan of Tim Burton, his style,
Hmm.
and so this is not actually a Tim Burton movie, but it reminds me very much of his style. It's Leica Entertainment's Coraline,
Hmm.
which Coraline has a very good, disturbing story. It's a very disturbing kids movie, but the visuals in it are fantastic, and the animation is phenomenal, and it's stop motion animation, and I'm a complete sucker for that. And Leica is the best studio by far in that field. Um, the other two that I actually watched on the same day. It was yesterday, and that was Smile and Smile Two.
Hmm.
I had never seen Smile. I'd heard a lot of really good things about it and never gotten around to it, and decided I want to go see Smile 2. So I figured I should probably see Smile 1. So
Just a reminder, like Smile, if you're not familiar with Smile, was one of those who had the ridiculously
yeah,
good viral marketing campaign
yeah.
when it first came out, where they had like people at like baseball playoffs, like right behind home plate with this like
Mhm.
crazy smile grin on and just all this type of thing where people are like, who is this? What's going on
Yeah,
here? And it turned out they were like paid for the
yeah. Smile had like
advertising
a
movie.
$17 million budget and made $217 million.
Yeah.
So it was a massive success. I was very impressed for a movie with such a small budget,
Mm.
the production value of the
Mm.
first Smile. Um, the music is fantastic. The atmosphere, settings, the cinematography, the acting. I I I loved all of it. And like I said, I've discovered that my favorite kind of subgenre of horror movies is psychological, and that's what these movies are. Now there's a lot of crazy stuff, disturbing, gory, nuts stuff that happens, but you're never really sure if it's actually happening or all in the person's head. And that's why I would term it psychological horror more so than anything else. And Smile 2, when Naomi Scott, which just came out, I actually thought was better than the first one.
Mm.
And we saw in the movie The Watchers that came out recently, M. Night's movie, it was based around a pop star, and there was a lot of music and stuff in it.
Trap.
Yeah, Trap,
Yeah.
sorry.
The
Uh,
Watchers was his
yeah,
daughter's movie.
yeah, Trap. It Smile 2 has kind of the same conceit in that it's about a pop star, and the music in it and the choreography in it is really impressive. It seems like it's like right off the stage from like Pink or Taylor Swift or something like that. And you
Mm.
see a lot of the background of her training how to do that, and um, just slowly descending into madness. And I think it's really good. And I think it's going to do pretty well at the box office.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting. It probably won't be able to achieve what the first one did because just
yeah.
because of the viral nature of it. But that doesn't mean it won't turn out to be actually a better movie, as you were saying. Yeah, that's cool. I did not make it to the theaters this week, but I did watch several movies, and I was kind of on a kick for like late 80s, early 90s, like murder crime dramas. So I watched, I think it was 1987's No Way Out, starring Kevin Costner. Um, it's very 80s. It was almost enough of like datedness to keep me from like getting into it, but there really is a good, intriguing plot. As there is a murder of a woman who's connected politically, and Kevin Costner's involved with her, and so he's running around trying to um, steer the investigation while trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. So he's in this like box where he's having to go back and forth, and there's a really interesting twist ending. Have you ever seen this one?
I don't know if I have.
Yeah, yeah, just check it out. It's on Prime right now. So No Way Out. I also watched a couple of John Grisham movies that I love. The Firm, starring one. Um, why am I blanking on his name all of a sudden? Tom Cruise. There it is. Tom Cruise. I do this sometimes where I start
That
talking about
guy.
the movie and I'm like, who is the actor? I can't think of his name. Tom Cruise. It's a young Tom Cruise, plays a lawyer right out of law school, gets caught up in a law firm that's not particularly great. So it's a really fun lawyer drama. And then of course the Pelican Brief, possibly the best of the genre of the John Grisham movies, and stars Denzel Washington and Julia Roberts. And she's like a law student who writes a who does her own research and writes this out of left field theory as to who killed two Supreme Court justices. Turns out she's on the right track, and a bunch of mayhem and murders and intrigue ensue from that point. Love all of these movies. They were all really good. It was a lot of fun to catch up on them and watch some old classics. All right. Well, that is the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for checking out Film for Fans. Make sure you visit filmforfans.com and tell your friends about the podcast. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, enjoy the movies.